Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics Podcast. I'm Rogelio Castillo. I'm with Chris, Mike Huper, and our very special guest this evening, Ashley Couturier.
Couturier.
Damn
Couturier.
You were close. It's okay. Everybody butchers it. You did good compared to everybody else.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. We have plenty to get to this evening, but first, make sure to subscribe and like our channel, Motor City Metrics, or our other channel, Tiger Mind Report. Also, some other housekeeping items. Your support means everything to us. We have the GoFundMe link, which I'll put up here in the chat shortly. However, helps cover the cost of essential tools like StreamYard, which has gone up in cost, trips to spring training, attending minor league games, allowing us to do the minor league coverage that we do. I mean, you can't get anywhere else. This year, we're stepping our game on Patreon. So the first 3 prospect profiles are up on our Patreon now. So we're offering more content behind the wall, because essentially we're getting more organized, quite frankly. And we're also still looking for sponsors to bring in the excitement of Tigers' future stars, fans everywhere. So every contribution or sponsorship directly supports our passion for baseball and helps us take us to the next level. And that way we don't have day jobs anymore. I mean, I don't mind my marketing day job, but it would be nice to do something else. I'd love to do this full time. So thank you for everyone who's donated in the past or present or in the future. So that being said, I want to get that housekeeping out of the way. But yes, Ashley, by the way, I did not know was so in the chat, Sam was telling me that Samuel, a long time on the show, friend of the show, was actually been around Twitter for a long time. I did not. Yeah.
I took a little break. I think I actually had an old account that I deleted. But I've been more, obviously back like last season. It was maybe, I don't know, like a 5 to 8 year break. It was a pretty long. I just, I was on Twitter way too much. And now I am again, but it's like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And there's also, too, when you get a certain point where it's like you kind of know your limits and when to stay off, when not to stay off. So,
well, and when the Tigers were, spiraling.
Yeah.
I was also spiraling. So
that doesn't help either.
That's very fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's nothing to talk about the 2019 Tigers. I mean, we were doing podcasts during that period of time, and I sometimes wondered. Yeah,
it was dark for everybody, right? Like the people just yelling at each other on Twitter about how much the team sucks. Everything is bad. But no, I mean, certainly this last year, I think it brought a lot of people back, honestly. And I don't know if you saw that the Tigers put out like an hour-long documentary about the season on YouTube.
I saw the preview for it, but I haven't watched the whole thing. I need to actually go watch it.
It's pretty great. Although they spend like the last 25 minutes on the playoffs, which is kind of wild. But it's if people haven't seen that, you should check it out. It's fun to relive that for sure.
Yeah, I'll put that link in our chat. So I'll put that in there for us right now for anybody who has not checked that out yet. So, but the by the way, Samuel with the comments here, she said Michiganders would say
Couturier.
Yeah, I used to say Couturier, but it's like one's not really easier than the other. So now I'm just like, you know what? We'll make it sound elegant, and we'll say it the French way, the proper way. So Sam, since you live in Canada, maybe you can pronounce it for us.
Yeah, I know that hopefully Samuel's been talking about meeting up some time, and definitely the case where he's just giving us punking us on our French lessons. But punking us. Let's start with the Alex Bregman saga, as the Tigers are still continue to be the front runners. Although, but we're just talking before the show that some of the news that was breaking out beforehand that the Astros have reemerged in talking with Bregman. Bregman's not interested in a short-term deal. Tigers are willing to pay him, but there's a gap in the perceived value between the two sides. Boston was considered the front runners, but that seems like it's gone kind of quiet. But per Evan Petzold, the Tigers are still in the negotiation process. But that being said, the strangest part of this was what Chris said in the chat was that the Astros are willing to move Jose Altuve to left field to make room for Bregman to go back to third, and then put Paredes at second, who he did play some second base in the minor leagues with the Tigers, I think, was it in Erie? I want to say Erie and
Yeah, I mean, he was playing shortstop for a while too. Yeah, Yeah, and there was an article in the Athletic, and they cited 3 unnamed sources that said that that conversations have restarted, and the offer that the 6 years, 156 million is still on the table for him. And they talked in that article about how Altuve was really pushing Houston's owner Jim Crane to re-sign Bregman. He said that he really wanted him back. So, I mean, you remember Miguel Cabrera moving from first to third to get Prince Fielder. Sometimes players will do whatever it takes to get the guy they like on the team.
I mean, fair, but I almost wonder if Bregman's camp maybe started these talks. When I first saw that, I was like, maybe Bregman saw 156 as an insulting offer at the beginning, and now he's still not signed, and maybe that deal's not looking so bad right now based on, the Tigers in Boston. Maybe he's not getting a better deal. So I don't know. First thing I thought of was just, free agency. It wasn't as sweet as you thought, huh, Alex? Very
Well, I'm
first.
sure Boris had something to do with that, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ashley, go ahead, because you were saying this in our DMs earlier about Scott Boras and play himself in the position.
Yeah. I just feel like maybe Scott Boras overestimated his market a little bit, and was, like gung ho, like, all right, we're gonna wait this out, and I feel like he may have shot himself in the foot. I mean, I don't think Houston's offer is bad, but I'm sure I read somewhere that he was looking for like a 7 or 8 year deal, which, again, like I said earlier, I don't see Scott Harris doing that. It doesn't really feel like a Scott Harris move. So yeah.
What about you, Uper?
Well, I think that the Boris camp wanted a number that started with a 2, right? They were hoping to get to 200 million in this deal, and that's obviously, I think, probably not in any likelihood anymore. I wonder if 6 and 156. That's a number Detroit could easily match or exceed. I mean, they have the wherewithal to do it. Do they have the inkling to do it? I'm guessing no. I would bet they want to cap it at 5 years if they can. They're also, the flip side is Alex Bregman may not want to come to Detroit. I mean, we always think money talks, and typically it does, but not always. I mean, this would be a very safe move for him if he can get a soft landing back in Houston where he's played his whole career. That would be probably the easiest move for him, and not risk going to another organization and hoping it works out.
Yeah, as far as you're looking at going in the camp, there's talk about like Jace Young being healthier, the Matt Burley, but then you look at the free agent market that's left out there after that, and it's a significant drop off. If you're talking about I know that people talk about the Yohan Mercado idea, or I almost forgot that Jorge Polanco was a thing. I mean, Polanco has fallen off quite a bit there, and it was interesting to see too. I mean, I know this is non-related, but it was weird to see that Tim Anderson got a minor league deal with the Angels. Like that's how bad, or not, excuse me, how weird the market has been. That Tim Anderson, this guy who was an American League batting champ, correct me if I'm wrong, now can't even get a major league deal. And can the Tigers financially do it? I think they can. It's just I don't know, to me, if you're in Houston right now, you have to hold in the cards because Dana Brown has done a pretty good job of being bold, and you also have Ryan Presley too.
Am I the only one who can't really hear you?
Yeah,
No, Roger,
you're underwater a little bit,
Yeah,
Roger.
sound like you just went in the submarine.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right, that's weird. I was saying, I think that, you look at the Cubs right now, they have interest in Ryan Presley, and Dana Brown's had a really good offseason. But I really think that I don't think they should be critical on the Tigers. I think with the situation with the Tigers right now is simply this, or for Houston, it's simply this. Houston has positioned themselves to be a contender in the AL West again. Seattle they've taken advantage of outside of the Angels. Seattle has been kind of very quiet. Oakland, or excuse me, I'm sorry, the A's have had a more active offseason than most teams have had. The couple teams combined, really. It's really weird to see the A's. They re-signed Brent Rooker. Houston, I think, is playing as well. And they have all the leverage right now. And the Tigers right now, this is preventing the Tigers from doing anything on the bullpen side of things. This is them from preventing. I think there's just a lot of roadblocks this whole ongoing drama has prevented from happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like the Bregman thing is holding a lot, probably more than just us up.
And to me, it's hard to believe it would. I don't, and I kind of agree. I think they are waiting, but I mean, if let's say they want Carlos Estevez for their bullpen, go do it. What does this stop? I mean, there's no reason not to. If that's the guy, or Finnegan, if they can go get Kyle Finnegan, they should be aggressive to do that, because it is kind of drying up for bullpen options. Although, I mean, if you get Finnegan and he pitches the 8th inning, whoever pitches the 9th has a real problem, because you know what they are.
Finnegan's wake.
They're in Finnegan's wake, and that's not good.
Oh man, I
All
want
right.
that one. Yeah,
If
all right.
you can't get a James Joyce joke in a Tiger podcast, where can you do it?
Go
That's
back
what I
and
wanna know.
go online and look at the James Joyce letters to his wife. They're the filthiest things you've ever read in your life. He
Wait,
was
what?
James Joyce, the great writer.
Yeah.
There's his love letters to his wife are available online, and they are absolutely filthy. This is like Penthouse Forum. It's fantastic. But
Home this win for your team.
That was the best dump of my career.
it's closer to that than you think.
Wow.
But anyway,
I apologize. Sorry.
no, it's,
Sorry. Okay.
no, but I agree. Like this whole point, and I think Evan Petzel wrote that article, right, where they're talking about like the Tigers, they want relievers, but the Bregman's holding them up, and I'm like, why? Why would that have anything to do with?
Exactly.
What's that got to do with the price of tea in China, right? Like go sign some relievers and get Bregman, unless you only have I just find it hard to believe that they only have like 25 million that they could spend, and if they go get a reliever, then they can't get Bregman, or if they get Bregman, that get them both. You're still a bottom 10 payroll. You're nowhere near any kind of luxury tax threshold. So I don't think that's the issue. I do think that the main problem is that, and we keep going round and round in circles of this, but there just hasn't been any information other than the Houston original offer. We don't know what Bregman wants. We don't know what he's gotten. We don't know what the Tigers have offered. We don't know. We have no idea. Tigers could have offered him 10 years and 400 million, right? We have no idea. I doubt it. But it's just tons of speculation. And the longer it drags out, the more secret ideas we come up with, like deferred money and 17 option years and things like that. And I don't know.
I feel like the speculation is
it's running rampant.
It is. And I feel like after all this time, it's like you have to go back and reread articles to be like, okay, what actually was the real thing? What did Evan Petzold say? And what is Twitter saying? Because sometimes it's hard to discern that, right? It's like you're hearing so much and there's so much speculation. You're like, okay, what is actually fact here and what is speculation?
Well, and I haven't even seen everything that I've read has said that there are 2 offers on the table outside of Houston for Bregman. We don't even know who those teams are, let alone what the values of those contracts are. So you're right. Everything has been really under wraps, weirdly. I feel like this kind of stuff usually leaks all the time. You always hear contract offers,
Yeah. I mean, there's one thing that I think that I think if you hear from John Heyman, who's got a Boris connection, I think that's more legit than it's just for example, a lot of people in Boston have this. A lot of the fans think it's a foregone conclusion will end up in Boston, but it is the fact that even with Kim as well, there's nothing. There's no. It's been very quiet on that front as well. The thing that the reason why I think this is all quiet too is because the Tigers have made a declaration at all. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not going, hey, Young's our third baseman of the future. And they haven't, I don't know, they usually make some kind of they for example, they announced that Cole Keith's gonna be playing first base, that Gabriel Torres. I mean, of course they did that at the signing, but they were pretty adamant that this was going to happen. And the Tigers have done that too, where they've kind of said this is where we're going to be going, because Scott Harris is pretty transparent when it comes to that. When he spoke to us on our podcast, and then the same thing just overall. So that is why people, I think going stir crazy. And also the fact that it sucks out. If you live in Michigan right now, it sucks totally right now. It is depressing. It is literally, what's that horror movie where 30 Days of Darkness with Josh Hartnett? Yeah, whatever that guy's name is.
It's set up in 30 Days a Night.
Yeah, 30 Days a Night. It literally feels like that. it's
The
depressing.
vampires are out and killing us all.
Yeah, and it's all it's
Yeah.
like just a thing that it just
So,
yeah.
so okay, let's say Bregman announces on Saturday that he's going to be an Astro.
Yeah.
Do they pivot to Flaherty? Because last year, when they made the incredible run at the end of the playoffs, it was all about pitching and a mediocre offense, right? Do they just say, hey, now that we didn't get Bregman, we're going to really sell out and try to repeat that again and just pitch, and hit a little tiny bit, just enough?
I mean, I want them to get another starting pitcher. I would love that.
I would
The last time I was on the show, or the last time we recorded 2 weeks ago, like I really still wanted them to get a starting pitcher because I mean we are going to talk about it a little bit later, but that 5th spot is it's looking like a weak part of the team. Honestly, that 5th spot in the rotation. So I would love that, but I think that it's crazy that that's the fallback plan. Like you don't get a reliever you want, you don't get the position player you want. All right, screw it. Let's get a starting pitcher. It's really odd backup plan.
Yeah. I was looking at earlier too, like some of the available, like, the free agent market and like DeYoung and Drury or whatever. And it's like, if we're out on Bregman, then it's like, we already kind of have like a platoon, right? Like between Young and Gearling. So it's like, do we just like add somebody else to platoon? Like, it's just like, why do that? I guess I don't.
Well, I mean that's a good point, and it's something I was going to bring up. I think is that they still, they basically replaced Torkelson with Gleyber Torres, so they still probably want another right-handed bat. It's possible that Torkelson, sticks on as the DH. Raj heard some good things about what he's doing over the winter, but I could see them going out and it's basically Veerling at third base, and then going out and getting a platoon right-handed hitting outfielder like Randall Grichuk or Harrison Bader or Michael Taylor or Manny Margot, all these guys who are, going to get 200 at bats, but it makes the team a little bit more complete. Or they could just, the Hassan Kim is still out there too. That's the other thing they could pivot to. But I don't know. We'll see. It's all going to play out here in the next month.
I don't hate that idea, but like Hassan Kim has no power.
No, that's
I mean, for a power hit.
He fits the team in terms of like the plate discipline and playing all over and stuff. But you're absolutely right. He's some of the lowest raw power in the majors. He'll hit 10, 12 home runs or something like that. But, you can get him. He might give you 2 WAR, and he's not going to cost you that much. So they may look at that as a favorable option to 6 years of Bregman. I don't know.
Remember,
I feel like you'd have, if he were the option, then you'd almost have to add some other power bat somewhere, like in right field or something.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I was thinking about Chris, thinking back to a couple of months ago, we talked about, and you brought up specifically, maybe they'll get a second Mark Canha, except someone who's just a bit better than Mark Canha, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and now maybe they might be getting Mark Canha 2.0. I mean, that's someone on that same level.
Yeah, bring back Canha.
I mean, if you even look at a guy, who's still out there too is I know Nick Pivetta is a guy who I really like, who I thought would be value to a rotation as well. And we'll, like I said, we'll talk more about the pitching a little bit later. But as far as like if you're talking about remaining bats that are out there that are right-handed that can provide some power, there isn't much really left to go with. I mean, you're not looking at the Harrison Baders of the world, because what is he going to do? He's not going to be. Justin Turner is probably retired at this point. He's 40. But then it like I said, it's just the market just drops off significantly. And so I don't know, like I think what the Tigers are going to have to, and the Tigers still haven't proven that they've been terms of a trading for a proven player already. I mean, we can talk about the Jack Flaherty thing here in a second, the soundbite he said earlier, and we'll play that shortly. But they still haven't traded for. They haven't been imaginative. I'm not trying to diss Scott Harris in the sense that he's not been imaginative for a proven player, but there hasn't been a trade for that yet. Like you look at, for example, Carl Skian, who at Days of War had on one of my favorite Tigers of all time. One of my I still think that's Dave Dombrowski's best trade. His best trade. I mean, I know he had a lot of good trades. Don't get me wrong, but that was his best trade because he literally traded a bag of peanuts and got the guy back in Ramon Santiago back from the Mariners. I mean, he did not give up a lot for a guy who, to me, had one of the best WAR. He had like a 7.4 WAR or something like that season. That guy was money. The guy was clutch. As Ashley and I were discussing, he had one of the best, walk-offs, the Jared Weaver, all this stuff about Carlos Guillen aside. You're looking for that trade. You're looking for the Scott Harris, the Doug Fister trade. Samuel, okay. Come on.
We wrote articles about, like, there were a dozen trades you could call. Getting Ian Kinsler for Prince Fielder was a miracle.
Yeah.
Getting Miguel Cabrera was a decent trade, I'd say.
Yeah.
So,
anyway. So at any rate, I think there's a lot to be said about, even you could talk about Alavila. I mean, Alavila, did he bring in Willie Castro? There's some trades you're like, but the point is that there's been some sort of record of bringing in some sort of player. And honestly, I don't know yet. And that's the thing. Even like we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Nolan Arenado possibilities. I mean, unless he waives no trade clause, the Cardinals still haven't moved anything. That's another glacier to move to that hasn't moved yet either. I mean, it's now September? It's September. Well, it's January 23rd, and that glacier hasn't moved. And the Cardinals haven't done anything either. And here we are with pitchers and catchers reporting on February 13th. So we're talking, 30. I can't count right now, but
I mean, we're kind of getting to that point where, I don't know, like a week before pitchers and catchers report, everything just stops, and then like a week later into spring training, that's when the urgency kicks up again. Like, okay, it's for real now. We're back doing baseball stuff. We don't fall behind. But I don't know. Like Jordan Montgomery didn't sign till late in spring last year, so it's none of this stuff may get decided anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that did him no favors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I think that it's a little bit of posturing with Scott Boras and a little bit of posturing. Boras is notoriously known not to get things done till the last minute. So it is, to me, like I said, it's just right now we're just spinning our heels, but everybody on Twitter or social media is acting like the sky's falling right now with Houston showing interest again. And I just tell everybody relax because we don't really know.
Well, at the end of the day, too, I think you brought this up earlier. It's like it kind of depends on where he wants to sign, too, right? Like, what if for some reason he doesn't want to sign back with Houston? What if for some reason he wants to sign in Boston? Like, and Boris is like, well, hold out. You could get this. You could get that. Like, everything's tight-lipped right now. So,
yeah.
Don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic yet.
I say that and I panic just behind the screen.
The moment this podcast is over, everybody's gonna panic. No, but all jokes aside, but I do want to get to, I want to get to what Flaherty said today, and I thought that this was a good piece of audio. This is him on Foul Territory. You could also find Tiger Territory. Our friends of the show, Cody and Kieran, do a really good job of that podcast over there. They're part of the official. I guess, is it the New York Times, Chris? Mm-hmm. Is it?
Yeah. The Athletic is known or owned by the New York Times.
Yeah. Tigers win
the New York Times sports section.
You're still on the Tigers. I know it's ifs and buts and all that stuff.
I wanted to stay in Detroit. We had conversations, and I loved it there, and I thought the combo of me and Scoob was incredible. And then you saw what they did, the run that they went on, even after I got traded, and they brought all those young guys up. I think, they got to. It's hard to say. I mean, they get to at least you get to Game 5 with Cleveland, and they got Scoob on the mound, and Lane Thomas puts one swing, and that's how the playoffs go. Is as crazy as it is. Do I think we win that series? Probably. We probably win that series and face the Yankees in the ALCF, which is crazy to think about. We win that series. I don't know. But I think we get there. I think at least we get there. But it's things like that, But they get some prospects in return who, ended up doing a good job for them and have been great. And it was fun to watch what they did. And we've been talking to them and talking to other teams and just like, hey, it'd be fun to go back there.
Is that basically him saying, "Hey, guys, I'm here. I'm here. Come on, let's do this." Right? Am I imagining that?
No, I hope
Yep.
so. I hope so. I would love to see him come back. Honestly, I would love to see our rotation be Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen, and then Job and Cobb. I don't really, 4 or 5, whatever. But
Yeah, that'd be a strong rotation for sure. Yeah, I am very curious what's going on with Flaherty, what his market has been this year.
but again, if this is where he wants to be,
Yeah, come on back.
maybe we do have the edge, right? Come back, please. We miss you.
The thing is, I don't think he won't do another. I don't think he'd do another 1-year deal.
No.
Because then he could also get hit by with the qualifying offer, I believe. So it'd be like 3 straight 1-year deals. And I don't know if the Tigers. I don't know. Who knows what the Tigers want?
You got to believe. I mean, obviously he only had the one big comeback year. I mean, we're basing it off 1 year because he was struggling before that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's holding out for 4 years? Is he trying to find that deal? And can he get it? Because I would think personally, I would never want to go much more than 3 with him.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's kind of odd. He did have a very strong year. It wasn't ended up not being like, elite or anything like that, but he was definitely one of the best pitchers on the market. And you see, it's almost like you got to prove it multiple times now. Like Blake Snell went through his drama last offseason. People are like, I don't know. And then he had another good season, and then he got the big deal. It's almost like, show us you can do it again, and then you'll get a big deal. But I don't think he wants to do that because, like as we mentioned, he could get hit with the qualifying offer. And I thought for sure some team would give him. I thought he was going to get 4 or 5 years and close to $100 million. So I don't know. There must be some real concern about the back. He had kept having to get injections. That would worry me. But when he was on the mound, he was pretty damn good.
I get that, and I don't know the extent of the back problems. He missed 1 or 2 starts with us last season because of that.
I think 2, yeah.
2 starts, but I mean, I have friends who work for other teams who I've talked to about other pitchers who also get back injections. It's just not public knowledge. So it's how, is it really that? Because it's a common thing. It's not uncommon to get injections in your back, but it's how big of a problem actually is that?
Yeah, threw 162 innings last year, 28 starts.
Yeah, can't complain about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he could get 3 years. Let's say, I mean, seems like in the 60s, right? That's way it feels to me.
Yeah.
Just, what do you make? 3 years, 66 million, 22 million a year, maybe with a option for year 4 with a heavy buyout. Yeah. I don't know.
He seems like one of those candidates for a deferred contract. Honestly, I don't know if you saw the financials for Santander, but it ended up being something like 64 million after in today's dollars with all deferrals. And I'm like, well, that's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if teams aren't being creative enough other than the Dodgers, but it would be nice to have him back. It was a lot of fun. It was fun watching him strike out 1 billion Cardinals. I don't think, it's fun, and he's an athlete, right? So he's going to say that, yeah, we would have won more. But last year's Tigers season was like a Rube Goldberg machine. Like everything had to go exactly right. It was like a reverse plane crash. Like 50 different things had to go right for them to even sneak into the playoffs. And if they don't have Sweeney, if Herter doesn't come up and doesn't learn his shimmy, if Ty Madden doesn't lower his arm angle, just if Parker Meadows jumps a second earlier or his home runs fall a foot short, like all these different things. So it's fun to think about, but yeah, I don't think the Tigers were going any farther with Flaherty last year than they went.
I like I said, I mean, if there's a motto, again, if there's a motto about this podcast, Chris and I have said for the last decade, is simply put, got a bad back?
Yeah. Get off my back.
Get off my back. My back. I don't know. I would like to bring back Flaherty, but I think the Tigers in terms of having pitching options eternally, and that's what we're going to segue into the starting rotation predictions right now. I think the Tigers are good. I think they have some good eternal options for a starting rotation. So I'm gonna start with Uper. I'm gonna start with your starting rotation prediction. If you want to go 7 deep, that's fine because and then we'll go Uper, Ashley, Chris, Mike, and then I'll go last. So Uper, what is your starting rotation prediction?
Well,
or like you like to see? There you go.
For opening day, I mean, it's just strictly for opening day. Again, I'm on board. I mentioned a couple weeks ago. To me, Jackson Jobe does not break camp with the Tigers. I mean, they wait the 2 weeks and gain the extra year of control. So on opening day, because obviously the first 2 weeks there's a lot of off days, the fifth starter barely goes anyway.
Okay.
I mean, they can skip them twice. For me, it's Skubal, Olsen, Cobb, Mize, and that fifth one wouldn't shock me if he has a decent spring as Maeda. I know people will lose their mind over that, but if they have him around and they don't want to just pay him off and send him packing, they'll probably get a couple starts here and there. I would rather it be Herter, but I just we didn't see. I mean, what we saw was wonderful. Don't get me wrong; he pitched great, but we didn't see much. Does that mean he's going to come back this spring and wow them again? Who knows? But he would be my number 6 right now. And then 2 weeks in, you see Jackson, assuming everything went well in the spring, Jackson Jobe joins them.
Okay. So Jobe is your 6th starter then, essentially? Is that correct?
Yeah. Him and Herter, both 6'7". They're kind of a mix, depending what they need.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure because I'm writing these down as predictions. Okay. So that is okay. So here we go. This is, and why one would say, oh, there it goes. Okay. So that is your prediction. Okay. All right. Ashley, what is your prediction for your projected 1.0 rotation?
So I'll be honest, I didn't even know about the 2-week rule. That was just something I was not aware of. So I had, obviously I hope we get Flaherty, but if we don't, I was thinking Skubal, Olsen, Mize. I mean, I wasn't really thinking much different than last year. I was thinking Skubal, Olsen, Mize, Cobb, Mize, and then Joe for my last one. I think, I don't remember if it was you I talked to about this earlier, but I really love Montero. Yeah, it was you, because we were talking about, pitchers who can spin the ball, big, athletic. I love his stuff. I really love Montero's stuff. I feel like if you were to, clean up the shape on that slider a little bit, clean up the shape on that curve, I think he has possibility to be really, really good.
Okay, so would you pencil him in as your 6th starter then, technically?
Sure, we'll see.
Okay. So, all right. I like that. All right. A little different there. Chris, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any. My prediction is not terribly exciting. It's Skubal, Cobb, Olsen, Montero, and Jobe. I think I wouldn't mind Herter being in there, but given that Montero was the guy that they kept giving real starts to last year, I feel like, and we've heard before that Feder really likes him. I feel like they believe in him more to become a traditional starter. On the other hand, you could break some new ground, be the first 6-man starting rotation where it's a 1 and a 5. Skubal pitches every 5th day like normal, but then everybody else goes every 6th day. So you end up with Skubal getting 32 starts and 5 other guys getting 26. And so you got Skubal is your ace, then you got Olsen, Cobb, Jobe, Herter, Montero. Everybody gets their innings get kept in check a little bit, and your bullpen is a little more shallow, but you're having fun with it. And I don't know, they won't do it, but it'd be interesting. Yeah.
Wait till so this is Chris's chaos. This is right here.
Chris Crazy Man. All right.
Chaos.
Yeah. So
all right, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike. What about you?
I mean, so I've got obviously Skubal and Reese Olsen at the top. I don't think Mize. I think that they've already moved on from the idea of Mize being a starter. It just feels like the organization is moving on from him. It doesn't hurt to keep him around because he's so cheap. But it just feels like if he gets a couple starts, there'll be spot starts. I think he's going to come out of the pen. But I think it's Scooble, Reese Olson, Jackson Jobe, Alex Cobb, and I do think Montero is the one that comes out as the fifth starter. I don't want to forget about Sawyer Gibson Long though. I know he's not going to start the year healthy, but I do think once he gets going, you got to give him some innings, and I do think he will be one of the guys that comes up often when he gets back.
Yeah, good call there. Yeah, so this is Mike's rotation here: Scuba, Olson, Jobe, Cobb, Montero, and Sawyer Gibson Long. Okay, yeah. So for myself, I'm gonna write mine down afterwards because I can't multitask at the moment. But so I thought about this for a while now, and judging how I'm gonna go 8 deep here. So this is where my mindset is right now with this. So I think it's foregone conclusion coming out of spring training. I agree with you, Uper. I think they're gonna hold back Jobe because they can. So I think it's gonna be Scooble, Olson, Cobb, Herder because they can, they can put him in the rotation easily. And so I said Cobb. So wait, what is it? I said
Olson, Cobb, Herder, I think.
Yeah, Herder and Montero. Montero makes the rotation out of spring training. I think Montero showed. I mean, he was again the only guy who threw a complete game last year. Then after that, you go Jobe as your 6th, potentially bring him up. Sawyer Gibson Long, and I'm gonna in terms of a guy who I think is gonna get some starts this year. I think Maeda is going to get a spot start here and there, but my dark horse for making a starter rotation at some point in the next couple months, there's a guy down in Toledo we've completely forgotten about, Ty Madden. I think Madden gets a couple of shots here or there. I think Madden will be, if they don't. It depends on what they do with Matt Manning. Now, Matt Manning is a guy that we no one's mentioned Matt Manning really either. Where does Matt Manning stand in the roster among the team organization right now? Well, he wasn't called up towards the end of the season, so that goes with to say what they think about him. Perhaps I'm not sure. So Mize, I think, does he have the swing miss stuff to go out of the bullpen? And maybe if he airs it out, who knows? Maybe Matt Manning goes out of the bullpen if they have to be creative. If they're not going to sign anybody. But another guy who I think could get some time potentially in the rotation is Jordan Balsovic, who the guy at the signing home from Minnesota. Maybe they see some out of him because I think they're going to go deep. And also a guy who I really like a lot, and Gary Burhan, who was in Erie last year, who's continuously improving. I know that sounds like this is a little further. I'm projecting myself a little bit more, but I think the Tigers are going to go pitching chaos. They're going to go 8 or 9, possibly 10 deep, which is why I don't think, as much as we want Flaherty be a good idea, I think the Tigers have enough eternal options that they could go eternally and just spend the money elsewhere. Whether it's the bullpen is, and Alex Faedo is better suited out of the bullpen. No, he's not off this team. I think Faedo is on this team. As soon as like Jobe, again, Jobe is going to keep. He's going to be up there after the whole thing happens, but honestly,
probably Steve was asking about, what does that mean? Why is he staying down? And again, I don't know the exact numbers, but basically you have to have a certain amount of days on the major league roster to qualify for a service year. And that affects his free agency at the back end. So, and it doesn't take much, like a couple of weeks to not have the year qualify as a full season, and that would give the Tigers a year of control at the back end of his initial time in Detroit. It delays free agency, basically.
Yeah, and it's always useful to remember that injuries are going to take care of a lot of this issue for us. Tigers might roll in the regular season with Kenta Maeda, Casey Mize, Matt Manning, Ty Madden, and Lyle Lockhart as a rotation.
Yeah.
You who knows? They have some depth there, but it's not all those guys that we talked about are going to be healthy. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I know I threw a lot of names out there, but I mean, look, the bottom line is I think that Montero, a guy like Montero, earned a spot in this rotation. I think if he pitched, dare I say, pitched better than Matt Manning did, even with the balls. even the balls that were hanging up, the ones he gave up the hard hit contact. There were times when the Greg Maddux, the Maddux start. I go to that. Just the efficiency of it all. He got better. He got better as the season went along. I think there's a lot of upside to Montero, and I think it gets why I'm not sure why people don't pencil him in relatively quickly with this, but I don't know. But Sawyer Gibson Long is a guy who's still recovering, and he was also pretty effective too, and he could also, based off his stuff too, he could be a good bullpen guy as well. I mean, he has some good strikeout stuff. He had a 10 strikeout per 9 of over 10, in his time up. So, I don't know, but it is, they have, like I said, you still have Matt Manning back there too as well. And I don't know, I don't know what they're going to do with Manning and Mize, but I think they're just going to, if they can't sign somebody, somebody's got to pitch out of the bullpen.
Well, you go back to Montero too, Raj. And one thing I like what you talk about him, and I agree with a lot of it. You think about the home runs, right, and some of the power he gave up. Well, that was Skubal's big problem his initial year as well. I mean, balls are flying out of the park, and he got over it. You go back to Rick Porcello early on. Balls are flying out of the park. He found a way to get around it. I think as Montero matures and as Feder works with him, I think he has a chance to become that same kind of guy who all of a sudden, the dingers aren't flying out willy-nilly like they did at the beginning.
I do like what Josh said here too, by the way. I wonder if Tiger's more valuable extra service time in Job's case.
Yeah, well, yeah. So if you bring him up, he wins Rookie of the Year, or if he becomes a finalist for the Cy Young in the next couple of years, you get a draft pick at the end of the first round, which I'm sure they'd value. That's not a sure thing, right? Whereas if you hold him down for a certain number of days, you're sure to get an extra year. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't get the feeling they're going to do that with Job. I don't think they would have brought him up at the end of last year if they were going to do that. But we'll see. Maybe he has to work on his control.
Yeah, you know what though?
The weather's going to be cold.
Yes.
Or
I think he's going to be just fine.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Harris thinks he's
going to be fine.
Well, I will say this, and it's something I was mentioned in somebody posted a workout video of Job. I don't know, he was doing a bullpen somewhere, and it looked like he was back to throwing a curveball, which he didn't throw last year, and a more traditional slider at like 88. So he would normally he's got that big kind of sweeper around 84 to 86. And Scott Harris did say he was going to be working on some things this offseason. So that would just I don't know. We'll wait and see there, but I don't think he's done getting better.
Yeah, I think that the one thing is certain about the Tigers though is we've just been talking about the embarrassment of pitchers too. Forgot about Bada Boom Bada Bing brings up Troy Melton too. Troy Melton struggled in his first year in Double-A, but I think he's a guy who I think he's going to have a good year. He's a guy who I think very similar. I think he's going to have a big year in the sense of like he's going to strike out more. And he's going to keep the ball more down. Now, Sammy wants to go in a deep dive on Reese Olson. And look, Olson is a guy who I think that, yes, at times he was very dominant. And he has I think he's a guy who, this is the reason why you don't sign Jack Flaherty, because you have a guy like Reese Olson who can go out and spin the ball very well. He has very good strikeout stuff. Another year under his belt, and somebody's very popular.
Right.
That's okay. No, it's but it's one of those things where I think Olson is a guy who I think he can make, if the Tigers want to trade one of their other starters, Olson steps up another year, gives them that flexibility to pitch some more innings this year. So I don't know. Anybody else want to say anything nice about Reese Olson? Because I mean, we can go on all day about Reese Olson here.
So I think Jerry brought this up on Twitter. I don't know, like a couple weeks ago or something, and he was talking about like, oh, we have our own Corbin Burns, we have Reese Olson. So I was looking into his pitch plots on Savant, and I was like, and then I was looking at Corbin Burns, and I think it was 2020 Corbin Burns added a cutter, and he kind of phased out that four seam, and that was when he became Corbin Burns, right? So I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, what if Reese Olson added a cutter? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know. I know it has to do with like pronation, supination, all that. But I was like, what if he added a cutter? And he kind of threw the idea out there. He was like, well, what if he were to add like a sweeper and start cutting that slider a little bit, and that could be like the cutter, and which like school his slider, I feel like cuts a little bit. So like, I don't know, maybe that. I just thought it was an interesting idea. So
yeah,
I
I mean,
like that idea. Yeah,
it is. It's and we've seen them do stuff. A bunch of the pitchers in the minors have added cutters. They've added two seamers that get more horizontal movement. I think, that was the main issue we thought Olson had was his fastball, and it still doesn't, by like stuff models, it doesn't grade out very well at all. But he was really dotting the fastball when he's at his best. He showed really good command of the fastball, which makes the breaking balls, and I've always thought his changeup was outstanding too. So there's definitely a lot of good stuff there, and yeah, it would be nice to have maybe one more offering to get hitters off the four seamer and the sinker. But even if he doesn't, I think the mix is there for him to be a really solid number 3 starter. That's kind of what he's been so far. He just hasn't quite had the innings. Last year it was a little bit of injury, and the year before he was in the minors for the first couple months. But yeah, I mean, he's got a chance to be a really, really valuable pitcher for the Tigers for the next. They're going to have him for 4 more years, I think, 5 more years.
Yeah.
So 5 more years, I think.
We saw flash. I mean, the first half of last season, he was great. Not that I didn't think that he would be good, but he was great.
Yeah, well, even in some of the things, he's got kind of that demeanor that you like too, where he gave up that really deflating home run to the Cleveland, and then he battled back and pitched like another 4 innings. I think I don't remember exactly what it was, maybe 3.5 or something like that. But it was he was not at full strength, but he really fought, and he seems like that type, right? Like he doesn't look like a badass at the mound or whatever. He's got a little apple cheeks, but I think he's a real competitor, which is nice to have.
Yeah. The by the way, somebody was mentioning, I was reading here in the comment section about let's talk about Casey Mize here. I don't think everybody estimating Casey Mize. I think Casey Mize just has to show that model of being consistent through the second or third time through the order. I think Mize has to be a guy that really is. I mean, he's the number 1 overall pick, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, again, is that fair to put that kind of pressure on him? No, it's not. But I think Casey Mize is a guy who go out there and throw. He's a competitor. You can say all the cliches you want, but the proof's in the pudding. And so I think that I think Mize has I think if you let him loose in the bullpen, I think he's a guy who could be potential. I still think he has a lot of potential left, but if he was in the rotation, would have been in rotation by now. So
anyway,
I think we saw, like you said, second and third time through the rotation, because I know there were games last season where I'd watch him and I'd be like, oh, like his splitter's looking really good today. He's keeping it down. It's like he's doing really well. And then the third time through, it was like, what are you doing? Like, it's like he just doesn't have that ability to be consistent. And like, do we need that in the rotation? No. Like, we have other options. I think they give him a chance, right? But
yeah, I think there's a chance that they'll certainly stretch him out in spring training. I think at least to like 3 innings or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's just never spun the ball terribly well. I know he had a decent, I think, a slider the year before he got injured, but I think we mentioned it a few months ago. Like, you put him in the bullpen and he's kind of an overpowered Shelby Miller. Like, instead of sitting 94 with a splitter, he's sitting 98 with a splitter. And I think that could be really useful if he gets used to that role. He's a guy he's got velocity. And that's kind of all he has right now. It's like velocity and the extension. So I don't know, start there and then build around it in the bullpen. That's what I would do, but I don't know. We'll see what they do.
You really made me shudder bringing up Shelby Miller. Thanks.
Well, I mean, the idea was there, and when he was good, he was fine. He was a weird reverse platoon split right-handed reliever.
Yeah. To me, you know what? Look, Shelby Miller was fun. When the Tigers signed him, all the metrics were there. I don't know what happened. It is what it is. I thought he was. I thought he was fine. I don't know. I didn't think he was the worst thing ever. But Anyway, let's move on. So the Hall of Fame vote is just happened, and the new Hall of Fame has been announced in terms of so it will be Ichiro, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner elected to the Hall of Fame. And every year let's debate there's always like the slam dunk kind of thing. Who's a slam dunk, who's not. There's only been one slam dunk, which is Mariano Rivera. But somehow Ichiro became within one vote, a unanimous selection. I'm not sure, again, what people are like this, just like this. No, he's not worth it. And I really like what I love. This is why I love Ichiro so much, because he's a guy who just seems like he has a sense of humor and a guy who gets it. Like to me, this is him talking during the press conference. And I just wanted to play this. He's talking through his interpreter. And this is the kind of thing I would do too. But I would ask this guy, why did you vote for me? Why? What is your deal? Like what's going on? And I love to pick this guy's brain on whomever it was. I'm not sure. We'll find out eventually, because Twitter will find out and we'll get blood for this. But either way,
I was able to receive many votes from the writers, and grateful for them. There's one writer that I wasn't able to get a vote from. I would like to invite him over to my house, and we'll have a drink together, and we'll have a good chat. Very, very grateful to be here, and thank you.
Yeah, I again, we talk about this every year. I don't get people's logic with things. It's just, yeah. And
hey, no,
go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say I almost hate to say this because I love baseball, but it's just one of the ways that like old men that are like baseball, they look at themselves as baseball purists. This is one of the ways that I think that they shine through. I think that this is one of those people that's just like, well, to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, you need to meet all of this criteria. And while he is a Hall of Famer, we're going to make him sweat it. Like they do that, especially in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's why the vote steadily increases every year. So it just, as soon as I saw it, I'm just like, yeah, it's just some old dude that's just thinks he knows better. Like, well, this is the Hall of Fame. And I don't know. It doesn't really piss me off. Like, I feel like most people are pissed off about it because it's just like, yeah, that's baseball. Just, I'm sorry, but that's the way I look at it.
No, and I think that's very fair. It's always been kind of an older voting block, and they're kind of been set in their ways for many years. It's starting to change, and it's only going to change through the use of funeral homes. I mean, these guys are going to die off, and new people are coming in with new ways of voting, and that's kind of how it works. But I think in this case, it was no position player has ever been unanimous. So there was one writer out there said, well, damn it, Johnny Bench didn't get in unanimously. Ichiro Suzuki's not getting in unanimously.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same. Did he vote? So why did he vote for Rivera, but not for?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, you guys have discussed two of the potential outcomes. Is it that, somebody who just didn't think he was Hall of Fame worthy for some reason, or, thought, if Henry Aaron and Ty Cobb didn't get 100% of the vote, then Ichiro doesn't deserve 100% of the vote. And our beloved Mariano Rivera, who got 100% of the vote, how's that looking now after this story? I don't know if you guys saw this weekend that he maybe doesn't feel so great. But the other option is that it was kind of somebody who thought, you know what, he's going to get in no matter what. The honor is getting in. The honor is not getting 100%. I'm going to vote for somebody down on the ballot who I think deserves more examination in the future. And if you look, like Torrey Hunter got in by, like, he's staying on the ballot by one vote. He got like 5.1% of the vote. Meanwhile, like Ian Kinsler, Curtis Granderson, Brian McCann, Russell Martin, Troy Tulowitzki, they're all gone. They're all gone. And maybe none of them are Hall of Famers, but it feels, especially the catchers, it feels like they probably deserve more scrutiny down the road, and they're not going to get it. And so I have no problem if you're, Ichiro's getting in, spreading out a little bit. I mean, we saw what happened with Lou Whitaker. Lou Whitaker, Kenny Lofton did not get 5%, and they're gone. And then later on the road, we go, oh, wow, they probably should have, they probably should be in the Hall of Fame. They certainly shouldn't have been off in the first year. So I don't have a problem if it was that, but we don't know. We don't know who it was. We don't know the reasoning yet.
Do you think we will? Do you think we'll find out?
Yeah, I think they say that it all becomes public like 2 weeks after the vote. They want to give the Hall of Famers this time to celebrate without the arguments about who got votes and who didn't. So the next 2 weeks it's about Ichiro. It's about CeCe Sabathia, who absolutely deserves to be in there, and Billy Wagner, who I'm not crazy about relievers in the Hall of Fame, but he was one of the best ever. So sure, put him in.
Yeah, I mean his career walks per hits, his WHIP is .9998, which is pretty awesome considering he pitched over 700 innings in relief. So I give him that. I mean, for a guy who was a power lefty like that. But yeah, Lou Whitaker has a chance to get in the Hall of Fame next year by the Veterans Committee, or is it I forgot the name of the committee.
The Contemporary Baseball Era Committee. It's for 2026, and it is a murderer's row. I hope he gets in, but I don't know if you saw the potential names: Albert Bell, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Carlos Delgado, Dwight Evans, Keith Hernandez, Jeff Kent, Kenny Lofton, Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, Kurt Schilling, Gary Sheffield, Lou Whitaker, and Bernie Williams.
So
guys who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, a bunch of those guys, but 4 or 5 of them are going to automatically not be because of the steroid thing.
Yeah, you would think so. I don't know who is on this, who makes these decisions.
Yeah, but
it's usually a committee, right?
Yeah, but it's here's the thing that I really think that's what's going to happen here. I think what's going to happen is that those guys are just until I don't want to sit there and say it. I don't want to sound morbid, but like for example, how did Dick Allen not get in the Hall of Fame until after he passed away? I hope that to me, Lou Whitaker had some of his best war. I posted this earlier on Twitter. He had some of his best seasons after the age of 30, and was a steady performer the entire time. I don't know. It just Lou Whitaker to me goes in. Don Mattingly, I don't know. You can make a case for his first 4, 5, 6 seasons, but then his injuries started kind of tumbling him, and he was not the same player after that.
Yeah. That's one thing that annoys me is Pedroia made it through, and you can argue that his career was not, dramatically better than Kinsler's or Tulowitzki's, but Boston won an MVP, run Rookie of the Year, so they're gonna get him through. It's annoying.
Yeah. For me, I saw Ichiro Suzuki play in person his first year in America. Just by happenstance, my wife had a conference out in Seattle, and I tagged along, and I had no plans on going, but there was a game going on, and she was at the conference. And it was amazing how the city had been taken by storm by Ichiro Mania that first year. And it was, people were yelling for him, screaming for him. I mean, he was a rock star right from the get-go in Seattle. So that's something I'll always remember. Just so fortunate to be there with and that's when the stadium was pretty new also in Seattle. So there was just a lot of buzz about baseball in the area. And then for Billy Wagner, just so interesting. Obviously a great pitcher. He didn't have any great postseason moments. I think he had a 10+ ERA in the playoffs. He's just the kind of guy who compiled a steady drumbeat of excellent regular seasons, and I think he's deserving. Again, when he was pitching, I don't ever remember thinking too often, "Damn, Billy Wagner's awesome." But boy, you look at the numbers, and he was.
Yeah, he did have what was it? There was a big home run he gave up, right? Was
that Billy Wagner or was that Brad Lidge?
I thought it was Lidge.
Yeah, you might be right. Okay, fine.
I look at Wagner. He had pitched in 15 seasons. 14 of them were more than 1 inning, and he only had an ERA above 2.85 once. So
yeah, he was
pretty good.
By the way, it'll be 9 years before Chris has a Hall of Fame vote, and for me, it'll be another 7 years.
Is it 7? I thought it was 10.
I mean, this is year 3 for me in the baseball.
I can't wait to get in there and really screw everything up.
Yeah, cause chaos. Ashley, do you have any Hall of Fame thoughts, or are you kind of just where do you stand with the Hall of Fame vote? Are you cool with the guys that got in?
I'm cool with who got it. A lot of them are before my time. Like, obviously, I was all for Ichiro. Who doesn't know who Ichiro is? But looking at the number, CC obviously wasn't looked at, but I'm happy with CC. And then Billy Wagner, I feel like was a little bit before my time. So it's like, looking back on the numbers, I can sit here and analyze it to death, but I wasn't watching. I mean, I think I've been watching baseball since like maybe 2006, but even then I was like 12 years old. So I don't really remember.
No. You're at least completely transparent. That's perfectly fine. It's just I was just kind of curious on your end where like some of these guys, or even for that matter, guys like Roger Clemens, who are not going to get in because of the, like, for example, Barry Bonds, his career before he got to San Francisco is a Hall of Fame. I mean, his numbers in Pittsburgh were outstanding.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like if you're like fuck steroids or nonsense, but
I was on a podcast not too long ago and we were talking about, I think it was the best, what was it, 25 hitters of the last 25 years or something to that effect. And I was surprised because everybody went before me, and I think I was like fifth maybe, and I had Barry Bonds number 1 on my list. I had him as number 1, unanimous, but like there was no argument with any other player. I wasn't like, maybe. No, it was like he was way up here, and then number 2 was down here. And I have that list somewhere. I don't remember where it's at, but I got kind of ridiculed for it. Like, they're like, what do you mean, Barry Bonds? And I'm like, okay, but steroids don't equal like contact, right? Like, and like you said, he had a Hall of Fame career like before he went to San Francisco. And I don't know when the steroids started or whatever, but that's kind of my opinion on it. Is I like to look at like contact, and steroids do not equal contact. And he's obviously an excellent pure hitter. So,
Oh, I agree with you. The era was what it was, and he was the most dominant player of that era.
Yeah.
Bar none.
And blew everybody, like he was like blew everybody else out of the water. Like he was the best.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put in a guy like Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame, who was me? I mean, Harold Baines was like, really? Like Tony La Russa was like, I'm gonna do you solid because I was your manager in Chicago, and he's like, really? I was just sitting here chilling, watering my garden one day, and I'm in the Hall of Fame. It was to me, it is just a travesty of sorts, because here's the thing: his best season as a player outside of San Francisco was a 9.7 WAR he put up in 1990, where the guy put a slugging percentage of 565, OPS of 970, and he was the MVP. His MVP year: 33 home runs, 114 RBIs, and 52 stolen bases. 52, and he batted 301. That is just come on, seriously.
No. Yeah, I mean he's arguably the greatest baseball player of all time. But you could argue in that era, like his era kind of goes from the 80s to the early 2000s. You can argue, Pujols from 2000 on, or A-Rod from like 90 to 2005, or like all three of those guys were incredible all-time hitters. But yeah, Barry Bonds is the most gifted hitter I've ever seen. You watch some of those videos, you'll see clips of him, like, Greg Maddux talking about facing Barry Bonds and how like Bonds just, not only was he super physically gifted, he thought the game at a level higher than everybody else. And he was just amazing. So I would have no problem with that pick, Ashley.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but by the way, the comment of the night from Deadly Ninja Bees, I want to almost name the podcast this episode. Baines knows the location of a dead hooker for sure.
I don't know. But
oh man,
who doesn't?
Yeah. Oh man. But anyway.
Who said that?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's Anyway, but no, yeah, it's the Hall of Fame. Okay, sorry, I just I lost my train of thought there. Thank you, then Deadly Ninja Beans for that. So
we could talk about future Hall of Famers real quick if you want to.
Yes, please.
The Tigers put out the Baseball America had their top 100 prospect list.
Thank you.
Generally considered the industry standard. Well, the Tigers only had 5 compared to Baseball Prospectus where they had 7. But still nice to see. I don't know if people didn't see that. Jackson Jobe was number 3, the number 2 pitcher behind Roki Sasaki. That's no shame. Max Clark 22, McGonigal 23, Bryce Rayner 60, and Tyron Lorenzo 69.
Nice.
So, yeah. I don't know if people were surprised about that. That there were, the way Baseball America does it, they have all their editors put together a list of 150 names, and then they cobble that down, combine them to get the top 100. And there were 11 Tigers who got votes on the top 150, including Dylan Dingler, Fangerber Montilla, Jace Young, Jaden Ham, Josue Briseño, and Trey Sweeney. Interestingly enough, no Hao-Yu Lee, no Ty Madden, anything like that. But I don't know if anybody on those.
Hao-Yu Lee is crazy.
Yeah.
The industry does not. I don't know. It's weird. We'll see what happens this year. But yeah, the industry doesn't seem crazy about him for whatever reason, despite him being very young for the level and producing at a very high rate and playing on the infield. We'll see.
He literally carried Erie on his back the first half of the season. He had he had numbers very similar to Cole Keefe, except for less home runs. He batted, I think, 30 points less.
Yeah.
Same point in Erie. And he was younger. I don't get it. I don't really. I don't know if it's Lee because he's not in Toledo or whatever the case was, but Hao-Yu Lee to me was one of the better players in the Tiger system last year that wasn't named Kevin McGonigal or Max Clark.
For sure. I wonder if it has anything to do with he's like not at a premium position. Maybe.
No, that's good. No, that's a good call there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I think also him being injured, he's been injured partially the last 2 seasons, so maybe that played a role in it too. You know, he was kind of done by August last year. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I wasn't. I mean, that was mildly surprising. I was kind of surprised that, not that I disagree with it, but I was kind of surprised that Young kind of fell off their top 100. He seems to have been a fixture on most top 100 lists. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts on any of the other players who were on there or who weren't.
I thought Briseño would be on there just because he's gotten so much hype.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he might make it down in the bottom 5, bottom 10, just based on that alone. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I'm not really necessarily ready to go there yet, but I thought that was my biggest surprise personally, that he didn't even. Well, you said he got additional votes, just he didn't make the top 100, right? Yeah, I guess that sounds about right.
Well, for me, I can't wait to actually see Bryce Rayner play.
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
That'll be great. But it is good that they speculate that he's this good. I mean, to be placed there with basically not being really seen yet on the pro level, they must really believe that he's going to be cooking with gas fairly soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll be one of the guys that we were focusing on the most to begin this season in the minors, just to see how he's doing. But yeah, I don't know. And you know, they also added, there were like 60 other articles they put out related to their top 100 list, and Lorenzo was one of the guys that they earmarked for potential riser this year, which makes a lot of sense given his profile's a lot like Samuel Basayo of the Orioles, who was like top 20 prospect. And if Lorenzo keeps hitting like he did at West Michigan in the AFL in AA, then I think you'll see him potentially be a top 25 prospect. So that's fun for a bad trade.
He's one of my favorite prospects in a long time. I have like this fantasy of him being the next Victor Martinez. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's a fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Just like crazy power.
Yeah.
Crazy power. The video of him hitting that home run in the AFL lives rent free in my head. Like I watch it like more than I'd like to admit.
You and Scott Harris.
You and Scott Harris both. Yeah. Scott Harris are the same thing.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that Baseball America has their own like stuff models and hit models and stuff, and they broke down every member of the top 100 in that. And I don't need to go through all of it, but the hit model involves contact, ex-Wobicon, the expected weighted on base average on contact, the barrel rate, the chase rate, it combines to form a hit plus. McGonigal had a 130 hit plus, which was the second of all the top 100 prospects behind only Dalton Rushing. And then Lorenzo was one of just 2 players who had a 120, so 20% higher, 120 or more on ex-Wobicon, barrel, and chase. So he's not chasing, he's crushing the ball, and he's barreling it up when it's in the zone. The only one where he's a little bit low is contact in the zone. So, yeah, really fun hitting prospect who also plays catcher, which is outstanding.
And he did some work with Brian Pena in the AFL, didn't he, to kind of like work on his defense behind the plate a little bit?
Correct.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, they had Pena working with them out in West Michigan too. Pena's their roving catching instructor. I'm sure he was out there with Lorenzo. And yeah, I think the defensive reviews out there were not bad. They were really praising his arm in particular. But it sounded like, nobody left there thinking like, oh, this just isn't going to work. There was like, yeah, this could work. And if it does, yeah, that's a huge piece to have for your system.
I just think it's more like the east to west movement where he struggles with, like the side to side.
He's a bigger guy. Yeah,
he's a bigger guy. So I think that's just a matter of, but framing wise, he got better. But his arm, I mean, there was a couple of throws in the AFL where he was just the lasers down to second base, and so I think that's not going to be a problem. Well, to me, I think the biggest thing about the top 100 list is I think Briseño should at least gotten towards the bottom end of the top one, because Briseño really dominated the AFL this year. I mean, he had a really good year. I know that Emily Walden, when Emily Walden interviewed him in terms of his conditioning and his bat speed, it seemed like he got quicker in the batting box, or in terms of his bat speed has improved in some of the mechanics he was doing to work on things. And so I think Briseño has a good chance to be a higher riser than Theron, because if he does this at a high level, because I can see Briseño starting the year at West Michigan, but then if he gets off to a really good start, if he gets to Erie by July, I think that's a good omen, based off the fact that if you look at how like guys like Cole Keefe have fared, or guys who have gone up to Erie relatively quickly, like Parker Meadows and Wenzel Perez in the past as well, I think that just that Briseño, I think, is getting a little bit overlooked, a little bit, at least in my opinion, versus Lezon, which is fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's embarrassment of riches to have, and I think it's because Briseño might not be viewed as a catcher anymore because of his knee injury, and that's where I think that's why. I think for some reason that hurts him, which I think is stupid, but it is what it is. And no, Deadly Ninja Bees, you're absolutely right. It's a position change. I think it's hurting Briseño, and as we recall, I mean, we had Jeff Pontes of Baseball America. He was like, I don't know about Briseño, if he was going to have the bat speed for it, but he's proven a lot of people wrong. I think he will continue to do so. I mean, the guy's a mammoth dude, A, and B, I think he's a guy who I think for Terror fans, I think he's the sneaky power. You're talking about sneaky power, Ashley. I think that for him, the fact that he can hit it to all fields too is impressive.
Yeah, he really impressed me in the Arizona Fall League. It was like every single day I was watching a game and he hit another home run.
Yeah, it was an epic performance out there. Yeah, I think the main thing is I don't think anybody thinks he's a catcher, and some people might not believe he's a first baseman, right? So you're looking at like a first base / DH.
Yeah.
And so then you got to hit a ton, and he did in the AFL and he does in the minors. It's just he hasn't been above low A yet. So I think they're probably hedging their bets there a little bit, but there are players like him in the bottom half of their top 100, like Xavier Isaac from Tampa, first baseman. They've got some other first basemen in there. So I bet you if they expanded to 120, 125, he'd be on there.
I'm excited to see the data, like from hopefully he stays healthy this year, to see the data on him and Lorenzo for a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I love even Lorenzo, like he started walking like crazy when he came over here and he quit striking out.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see a full year of that. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the amount of catchers too, by the way, Chris. And I don't know if you guys even looked at everybody else looked at the list, but the amount of catchers on the top 100 seems like a little high, isn't it?
Yeah, there are a lot of catchers that, but a lot of them aren't, there's like the Moises Ballesteros of the world where like, is he really a catcher? We don't know.
It's Drake Baldwin.
Yeah, I think Drake Baldwin answered some questions about his defense, but yeah, like it's guys like that. Like Basayo, is he really a catcher? But yeah, it does seem like an unusually good, a fertile period for catchers, as it were.
Yeah, even a guy like Blake Mitchell coming in at number 75 for the Royals. I mean, that's another guy who might be getting slept on there.
He had a monster season.
Yeah, he had a monster season. And I was surprised to see Christian Moore not come up higher either. He was only coming in just under number 79 or something to that effect. So, well worth. I mean, even though they will not hire us to do their prospect writing, that's okay. Baseball America is a fantastic source for all prospect related stuff. Shout out to JJ Cooper. Hey, look, you know what? If there's one thing about this year, I'm gonna be more confident. I'm gonna be a little more confident in 2025 because, quite frankly, damn it, we do good work, and I'm gonna be more boasters. I'm gonna be more braggadocious about it. Quite frankly, why not? Fuck it.
Hey, you kicked ass in 24.
Yeah, we kicked ass last year. We're gonna continue to kick ass. And speaking of that, by the way, if you want to go to our Patreon right now, our top 43, number 38 reports are in terms of graphics. We did. They're out early, so 40 through 38 you can find if you're a paid member of our Patreon. They're out now. I'm finishing up the table chart of our top 45, so I know it's going to sit there and say, well, Roger, you just said 40 through 38. 41 through 45 we have just missed, right, Chris? I mean, we explained that.
Yeah, we did a list similar to like Baseball America, where Rogelio, Jerry, and I all did basically our top 50s, and then we tried to find all the guys who got at least 2 votes, and then kind of whittled it down there. And we ended up, I think we had like 70 different names and whittled it down to like 46, and then we got rid of the bottom 5 because none of them got votes inside the top 35. So it felt like, all right. And there's some names on there that, whatever. But I don't know. I feel it's like a pretty good list. And actually, once you get past like the top 20, it's like, you throw your hands up, and some of these guys are interesting and young. Some of these guys are old, and like, what do you do with them? But it's a strong system right now, at least the top 15. So people can be happy about that.
Yeah, I saw you guys' list. It was a really good list.
Yeah, Thank you. Yeah, so we have Ashley a list, and Uper, I'll give you a preview of the list too. And Mike, if you're interested in the list, and let me know.
Please, yes.
You just made the list.
You just made the list.
The list of lists.
Yeah.
Chris, were you surprised with ex-Wobicon that it's the same name as a famous concert hall in Tokyo?
I did not know that.
Is that a known ex-Wobicon? Isn't that a known wrestling
ex-Wobicon? I think it's actually Budokan. I'm sorry. I guess
it's Budokan. I was to say the Budokan.
That joke was probably a little too old for the audience. Sorry.
I knew. I've heard of Budokan before. Yeah. There was a Budokan club in Detroit, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. And there's Budokan was where didn't they Cheap Trick played there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. And I'm
So
you're older than me. Yeah, you're older than me, and I
born.
somehow got that reference. Ashley has no idea what we're talking about.
Ashley wasn't born yet.
That's not even necessarily that, but it's just like
I'm old. Yes, I'm old. I know.
I'm not used to being the youngest one, so I appreciate it.
No, you're definitely the youngest one here.
Damn,
but,
I'm not that old.
Mike's like, I'm not old.
Damn.
Yeah, you kind of look old.
Y'all remember the 80s.
I
Parents
do.
hadn't even met yet.
Well, okay. Well, thank you everybody for checking out the podcast this evening. And Ashley, thank you so much. And hopefully, if you want to become a regular contributor, that'd be great. Because
I would love to.
that'd be awesome. So
I love you guys' podcast. So I was super excited when you asked me to be.
I was surprised you heard of us. So that was actually I just because like I'm one of those people that I don't think like it's not like I come around with a big ego or anything. But yeah, I just your tweets, your insight was wonderful, and more of that is needed because a lot of people don't think that. I think people think that sometimes when it comes to having I love having a diverse group of people on, no matter what it happens, and it's always brings out the best in people. So yeah, it's awesome. And I talked this with a buddy of mine, Nick Spillane, who we've had on the podcast. If you can talk baseball, baseball nerds, I know Sam says, Raj will be modest. Scott says he loves McConn. Yeah, I know, but I'm just not one of those people that can just, smell my own farts or something like going, oh, I'm so, I'm not, I'm not that way. I just cannot, I don't know. I'm not built that way or whatever the case is. However, be that as it may, I'm still saying, please go check out our GoFundMe link that's on here. Our Patreon, there's a lot of great bonus content we're getting this year, but we're going to start. We have to tighten up the belt a little bit because inflation, things cost money. StreamYard is like $45 now, apparently. There's other alternatives we can find, but still, nevertheless, all this stuff goes back to what we do, and we can't thank you enough. Sam, I like to think he was genuine. I like to think that Scott Harris meant what he said, because otherwise he wouldn't have come out with this.
There's no reason to lie to us.
Yeah, there's no reason to lie to us. You can't bullshit us. So, dude, there's a woman in the room. I have no idea what that means, but okay.
We're not in the same room. We're all.
We're all.
Quick non-baseball thing.
Yeah.
I got to send out my respect for the Vikings and the Lions. They've now gone 59 years, and they've stayed so vigilant in their hatred of the Green Bay Packers that they refuse to ever hold the Lombardi Trophy. They're never going to hold that trophy because they hate the Packers so much. I respect it.
You're still mad about third place, isn't he?
You're crazy.
Third place.
You're crazy. I got in a little trouble tweeting about the Lions that night, but whatever.
Yeah, Uper, I got one drop for you.
What an asshole.
All right.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist.
Thank you, everybody, for.
Yeah, thank you for everybody tuning in tonight. But that Saturday sucked.
No, I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah, we're not ready to talk about that. We're not.
This is baseball, damn it.
This is baseball. So stay close, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully the Tigers have finished off the offseason. The next week is the last. It'll be Thursday the 30th, and at that point the Tigers haven't done anything. Who knows what?
We're canceling the season.
Yeah, we're not. Stay close, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.